Title: My ex laughed at my pathetic job. Now she's asking if I'm hiring. Part 1/3, back when I was the joke. I didn't think I'd ever write one of these. You know, one of those stories where someone gets a perfect revenge arc that feels like it was ghostwritten by Netflix. But here we are. Strap in. This is gonna be a long one. Some quick backstory for context. I, 32M, used to date this girl, Sophie, 30F, back when I was 25. We met in college. She was getting her master's in business admin, and I was that weird tech guy you'd see eating a sandwich in the computer lab at 11 p.m. I dropped out 2 years into my CS degree because I got obsessed with building web tools, mostly dumb stuff at first. I made this little widget that turned your Spotify stats into fake concert posters, and it randomly blew up on Tumblr. I made $600 in ad revenue and thought I was Bill Gates. But I didn't go back. I kept building. I wasn't making bank, but I was surviving, doing freelance work, living lean, constantly learning. That's around when I met Sophie. She was smart, charismatic, effortlessly cool. I couldn't believe she gave me the time of day. For the first few months, things were amazing. She said she liked how passionate I was, how I wasn't like other guys she dated. I was all in. But then the joke started. So, you're still playing pretend CEO? At first, it was little digs. Playful. She'd laugh when I talked about the tools I was building. That's cute, she said once, after I showed her a prototype I'd made for a client-led dashboard. What is it for? Small businesses, mostly, I said. It helps them track customer engagement, predict churn. Ah. You mean for, like, Etsy shops? It stung. But I brushed it off. She came from a finance family. Her dad was a partner at a major firm, and her idea of success was tied to corporate titles, polished shoes, and PowerPoints. But over time, it got worse. She started referring to my work as my little hobby. Would roll her eyes if I worked late. Once told her friend at brunch, right in front of me, that she was dating a guy who thinks Reddit karma is currency. She wasn't always cruel. But the respect just evaporated. The breakup. The final straw came during a family dinner with her parents. Her dad asked me what I did for a living. I gave my usual: I run a small web dev studio, we build automation tools for niche B2B clients. It's just me and one contractor now, but I'm hoping to grow. Her dad raised his eyebrow and said, "So, you don't have a job?" And Sophie laughed. Like, full-on snorted. "No, Dad. He's an entrepreneur," she said, doing finger quotes. Everyone laughed. Except me. I went quiet, finished my wine, and left. That night, we had a fight. I told her it wasn't working, that I couldn't be with someone who clearly didn't respect me. She didn't even try to stop me. Fast forward, 6 years. Breakups suck, but looking back, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because I got serious. I stopped trying to go viral and started building real tools for real problems. I partnered with a logistics firm to create an automated system for warehouse inventory. Boring, I know. But it made them a lot of money, and me enough to hire 2 devs. Then a startup accelerator picked us up. We rebranded. I found a co-founder, shout out to Malik, my ride or die. We pivoted into building internal workflow software for remote teams. Project management with a human touch, that was the pitch. We called it Nodal. By year 4, we had 12 full-time employees, a 6-figure MRR, and one hell of a client list. We weren't famous, but we were profitable, and I had actual people relying on me for paychecks. Real ones. Funny thing, I never forgot Sophie. Not in a pining way. More like, as fuel. I'd hear her laugh in the back of my mind every time I pitched to an investor or shipped a feature. Not bitter. Just motivated. Then she emailed me. This was about 4 months ago. I was working late, ironically, in the same old hoodie she used to say made me look homeless chic. My assistant pinged me, "Hey, someone just sent a resume through the careers page. Says she knows you?" Subject, application for communications role, Sophie L. I stared at the screen for a full minute. Checked the attached resume. Yep. Her. MBA, worked in 2 mid-size firms, recently laid off due to budget restructuring. Looking for a new opportunity. My jaw literally dropped. She even included a cover letter. I've followed Nodal's rise with admiration. It's been amazing to see how far you've come. I believe my background in business strategy and comms would be a great asset to your team. No mention of our past, of course. I didn't reply. Not yet. I'll be honest. I wasn't sure what to do. Hire her? Ignore it? Forward it to Malik with a laughing emoji? Instead, I just sat with it. And for the first time in a long time, I remembered how small I used to feel when she belittled me. How I used to doubt myself. How close I came to quitting, to getting a real job, just to feel less pathetic in her eyes. But I didn't quit. And now she was emailing me. More happened after that, a lot more. I'll post part 2 soon if people are interested. Let's just say, I didn't delete that email. I had a plan. Edit, wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. I'll post part 2 tomorrow. It gets a lot juicier, trust me. Part 2/3, welcome to the interview. Hey again, Reddit. As promised, here's part 2. If you haven't read part 1 yet, it's probably worth going back to get the context. TLDR, my ex, Sophie, used to mock my job back when I was a broke solo web dev. Fast forward 6 years, I run a profitable tech company, and she just applied for a job here. So, let's pick up where we left off. That email sat in my inbox for a week. Every time I looked at it, I got this weird mix of amusement and something else. Not quite anger. Not quite satisfaction. Just this surreal awareness that the power dynamic had completely flipped. This woman, who once called my work a hobby, who introduced me to her friends as the guy who dabbles in tech, who told me, verbatim, maybe one day you'll have a real title to put on your LinkedIn, had sent me a tailored resume and cover letter. Requesting an interview. At my company. Anyway. I didn't delete it. I forwarded it to Malik, my co-founder, with the subject line. Guess who wants to work here? He replied 2 minutes later with. LMAO. Do it. Bring her in. I wasn't sure. But I had to admit, I was curious. So I emailed her back. Professional tone. No hint of recognition. Just. Hi Sophie. Thank you for your application. We'd be happy to schedule an initial interview to learn more about your background and how it might align with our needs. Let me know your availability this week. She replied within the hour. We set it up for Thursday. 10 a.m. Over Zoom. Thursday arrives. I'm dressed in a plain hoodie, on purpose, sitting in the same cluttered home office where I built the first version of Nodal. No fancy background. No virtual blur. Just me, my bookshelf, a coffee mug, and my cat Oscar chilling behind me like the indifferent little king he is. The Zoom call rings. I answer. And there she is. Same sharp features. Same polished blazer. She did a little double take when she saw me. Like her brain needed a second to reconcile what was happening. Oh, she said. I didn't expect you to be on the call. I smiled. I like to sit in on certain interviews. Especially for senior roles. She nodded, trying to mask the flush in her face. She recovered fast, I'll give her that. Years of corporate training kicked in, and she launched into her elevator pitch like nothing was weird. I let her talk. I listened as she told me about her experience handling communication strategies for mid-size SaaS firms. Her collaborative approach to leadership. Her passion for aligning internal messaging with brand values. She dropped a lot of buzzwords. Most of it was fluff. But technically solid. Then I asked the question I was really waiting to ask. You mentioned in your cover letter that you followed Nodal's growth. I'm curious, what about our mission resonates with you? She blinked. A slight pause. Well, I think it's admirable how you've built a brand rooted in transparency and user-focused design. That's increasingly rare in the B2B space. Not bad. A little generic, but smooth. But then I said, do you remember telling me my work was a fun little hobby? Her face froze. For just a second. Then. I don't think I ever said that. I didn't press. I just smiled. Maybe I misremembered. There was a long pause. Then, to her credit, she said, if I did say that, it was wrong of me. I didn't understand what you were building back then. I nodded. Not many people did. I ended the call politely. Told her we'd get back to her within the week. She thanked me. Looked slightly rattled, but kept it together. Call ended. Oscar meowed. Like even he couldn't believe what had just happened. I wasn't done. This wasn't about revenge. I wasn't going to humiliate her. I didn't want to play God. But I did want to understand. Because honestly, the petty part of me had already been satisfied. Just seeing her face when I answered that Zoom call was enough serotonin to fuel me for a month. But another part of me was still curious, had she changed? Was this just desperation, or growth? So I did something I probably shouldn't have. I reached out again. Subject, follow-up. Hey Sophie. Thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. I'd like to propose something a bit unconventional. Rather than moving forward with the role you applied for, I'd be open to grabbing coffee sometime. No expectations, just a conversation. Let me know. She replied later that night. Sure. I'd like that. Coffee. We met at this little indie cafe I love, the kind of place with plants hanging from the ceiling and oat milk by default. I got there first. She showed up 10 minutes late, looking nervous. She sat down. No blazer this time. Just a sweater. First thing she said? I'm still wrapping my head around all this. I nodded. Yeah. Me too. We talked. Not about work, at first. About life. About the pandemic. About burnout. About turning 30. Eventually, she opened up. Told me she got laid off in a merger. That the last year had been a mess. That she'd started therapy. That she regretted how she treated me. I used to think success had to look a certain way, she said. I was wrong. You were always building something real. I just didn't see it. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just sipped my coffee. Then she said something that stopped me cold. It's funny. When I got laid off, I felt humiliated. Like everyone would see me as a failure. And then I saw your company's job post, and I thought, maybe this is full circle. Maybe this is the universe giving me a second chance. I didn't laugh. I didn't gloat. I just looked at her and said, maybe. I didn't make any promises. I told her I'd think about it. We hugged when we left. It was weird. Nostalgic. Not romantic, just human. More happened after that. Yes, she ends up joining Nodal, but not how you think. That's in part 3. Let me know if you're ready for it. Because that's where it really gets complicated. Edit, okay, wow. Again. I didn't think so many people would care about this story. I've been reading the comments and DMs, thanks for being kind. Part 3 is coming soon. And yeah. I'll tell you what Malik said when he found out what I did next. Face with tears of joy. Part 3/3, The Offer. Okay. So, if you've made it this far, you already know the ride we've been on. Sophie, the ex who used to mock my career back when I was a broke, hoodie-wearing solo dev, ended up applying for a job at my company 6 years later. I interviewed her. Took her to coffee. She apologized. It got personal. But here's the part you don't know. She did end up joining Nodal. But it wasn't out of pity. Or revenge. Or some gotcha moment. It was something else. After coffee, I took a weekend to think. Malik, my co-founder, was not happy when I told him I was even considering bringing her on board. Bro. You cannot be serious. She treated you like crap, laughed at your dream, and now she wants in? Nah. That's a no from me. I get it. I really do. I expected him to push back. But here's what I told him. You said it yourself, we're growing fast. We need someone who understands internal comms, who can scale team culture, who can talk to both devs and investors without sounding like a robot. That's her background. And besides, I think she gets it now. He wasn't convinced. But Malik trusted me. We've been through a lot together. So he gave me a warning. Fine. But this is your call. You bring her in, you manage her. You're the one doing the onboarding, the reviews, the accountability. Not me. Fair enough. I offered her a 90-day contract. Not a full-time hire. No benefits. Just a trial. She'd work part-time as a communications strategist, helping us define our internal playbook, build out onboarding materials for new hires, and streamline how we documented internal processes, which, frankly, were a mess. I sent her the terms. She signed them within the hour. The first month was weird. Not because she was bad at the job. Actually, she was good. Surprisingly good. She rewrote our internal doc suite in 2 weeks. Turned our rambling Notion pages into clean, structured, intuitive guides. Interviewed every team member one-on-one to get their input. Built a shared language around our values and culture. And here's the kicker, the team loved her. My dev lead, Isaac, who is allergic to corporate buzzwords, actually slacked me. Hey, Sophie's comms doc is fire. Is she sticking around? That surprised me. I'd expected quiet resentment. Side eyes. Maybe even passive resistance. But instead, she showed up humble, hungry, and helpful. One night, I stayed late on a call. Sophie was still online. We were going over a slide deck for a pitch meeting. Something about the way she framed the narrative caught me off guard. You're not just a tech company, she said. You're a story about belief. You believed in something when no one else did. That's what you're selling. Not just software. It was the first time I'd heard her say something like that, not as flattery. Just as observation. And it landed harder than I expected. Around week 6, we had dinner. It wasn't planned. We both stayed late. Ended up at a Thai place down the street from our office. Over pad CEW and Singa beer, we talked, really talked. She told me more about what happened after we broke up. The toxic jobs. The burnout. The nights she cried in the office bathroom because she felt like a fraud in a pencil skirt and a LinkedIn mask. I used to think I was winning, she said. But I wasn't even playing the right game. I told her how close I came to giving up. How lonely those early years were. How often I heard her voice in my head, mocking my ideas, even when she wasn't around anymore. She looked down. Then up. I'm sorry, she said. Really. I wish I'd seen what you saw. And maybe this is where I lose some of you, Reddit. But I believed her. I extended her full time. At the end of her contract, we offered her a permanent position. Better pay. Benefits. Equity vesting over 3 years. She accepted. Malik still raised an eyebrow. But by then, even he admitted she'd earned it. But here's where the twist comes in. Because you probably think this is some story about me getting the girl back. Or falling in love again. It's not. I didn't hire Sophie to get revenge. I didn't forgive her to rekindle anything. We didn't get back together. We're not dating. We're just two people, older now, softer, a little bruised by life, who found each other again in the most unexpected way. And built something better. Not a romance. But respect. And maybe that's the point. Because yeah, 6 years ago, she laughed at my job. But now? She calls it our mission. And every time we sit in a room together, collaborating, disagreeing, building, I remember what it felt like to be underestimated. And I remember that the best revenge isn't success. It's growth. Final edit. Thanks for following this journey. I didn't expect this story to hit as hard as it did, and reading your comments has been incredibly healing. For those asking, yes, Sophie knows I wrote this. I showed her the first post. She rolled her eyes, then said, "At least make me sound hot." I did my best. Op.